So in this video, we're going to carry on our work on multipliers to find percentages of amounts and increase and decrease percentages. So before we get started, let's make sure we really understand some equivalences here. If I increase something by 8%, that is an identical operation as to finding 108% of something, okay? It's taken that original 100% and gone up by 8. So for both of these, think, what is that multiplier going to be? What will I times my amount by to get that increase or to find that 108%? Well, I'll have to times by 1.08. They both are the same. What about if I increase by 76%? Well, that is equivalent to finding 176% of the original. And what would that multiplier be there? Well, that would be 1.76. By multiplying my original value by 1.76, I would have increased it by 76%, or you could say I found 176% of it. Now, decreasing is a little bit trickier, okay? Think about this one. If I am decreasing by 11%, then what I'm really doing is I'm finding 89% of the original. And look, these numbers are not the same anymore. The pattern has disappeared, but this is the truth. Because if I am taking away 11% from my original 100%, then I'm left with 89%, because 100 take away 11 is 89. So what would the multiplier be for both of these two operations? Well, it's going to be 0.89. If I multiply by 0.89, I will have reduced it by 11%. I would have found 89% of the original. There is an equivalence look between these two numbers, but we have to be careful if we're thinking about this in terms of increasing or decreasing. Let's do one more of these. If I'm to decrease something by 92%, that's a big decrease, then that is equivalent to only finding 8% of the original, all right? Because if I do 100 and I take away 92, I'm left with 8. What would that multiplier be? Well, the multiplier would be 0.08. If I want to decrease by 92%, I just have to multiply by 0.08. So let's see if we can just think carefully now about these multipliers yourself. So before I give the answer, can you think what increasing by 30% is equivalent to? Of course, it's finding 130%. What's that equivalent multiplier? It's multiplying by 1.3 or 1.30. Decreasing, if I'm going to decrease by 32%, what is the equivalent? Well, it's finding 68%. Decreasing by 32% is the same as finding 68%. What's the multiplier? Multiplying by 0.68. Okay, now we've really got that understood and that equivalence. Let's do some math. So in this first example, let's say we have something like $72, and I want to find 13% of it. Well, how am I going to do that on my calculator? Well, I'm going to take 72 and I'm going to multiply it by the multiplier that is equivalent to finding 13%. So that's going to be 0.13. So 72 times 0.13 is 9.36. So 13% of $72 is $9.36. Okay, what about then if I increased $130 by 84%? So I'm going to start off with my $130. Now, what am I going to multiply it by? Well, it's going to be an increase of 84%. So that's equivalent to finding 184% of that original, which is a multiplier of 1.84. It's going up. That multiplyer's got to be bigger than 1. So there's my sum, and if I work that out, 130 times 1.84, I'm going to get $239.20. Okay, let's try a decrease now. So if I started off with $1,932 and I decrease this by 15%, what would I have to do? Well, I start with my 1,932, and then I'm going to multiply it by 0, because it's going down, 85, because decreasing by 15% is the same thing as finding 85% of the original. So multiplying by 0.85, I am going to end up with 1,642.20. Okay, I hope that helps you to understand how to increase amounts and decrease amounts by a given percentage and find a particular amount all using multipliers.